Welcome to Tapped In. My name is Figueroa-Martinez of DFM Coaching, and this week we're going to be discussing the self-coached grappler. I have quite a bit of experience in this. I have had to coach myself through a lot, and I've had to kind of self-mentor and self-guide and self-teach, self-correct. And as weird as that sounds, not everyone has coaches that are really involved. When I first started, I started a place called Roy Harris Academy, which then I think switched to Rebellion Academy at some point while I was still there. And I had great mentorship there. I had involved coaches. I had coaches that developed, coaches that gave a lot of feedback, homework, and went out of their way to kind of make sure that you were mentored and supported when you competed. They gave you feedback when you were making mistakes. They kind of corrected you. Like there was a lot that went into it that shaped how I coach myself. And then I went to a gym where it was bigger. There was a lot more students, and that kind of or that style of coaching did not exist. I didn't have someone that was routinely guiding what I was learning or developing or focusing on. The instructor there, I think, was spread thin in a lot of ways and did not have a cadre of instructors that filled in where he couldn't. And in some ways, I don't think that it was part of his DNA to kind of do that. There was just way too many students, too many blue belts, too many purple belts, and it wasn't a focus, and I don't think it was necessarily possible. So I learned to have to kind of figure out my own shit. And thankfully, I had the foundation to kind of fall back on from Jeff and Will, that I understood my game better than most people. I understood that developing a game was super important. That wasn't something that was necessarily communicated when I was at Gracie San Diego. It wasn't something that was part of a discussion period ever. It was just you're just sort of figuring it out. So the two cultures were very different. And so if I'm discussing this on why self-coaching becomes necessary, being from both halves and having experienced both for so long, not everyone has a coach, Matt side, that's giving them feedback during rolls. You might get something occasionally, but the class might be too big. The instructor might be too busy. He may have his eyes on too many different things. He or she may have their eyes on the competitors, and you're a hobbyist, a guy or girl that comes in 2 times a week, and you're not high on the priority list. So they tend to sometimes give more attention to other people, which in some ways makes sense, and in some ways doesn't. Gyms often will lack structured feedback and individual guidance, again, because of the size of the gym. Gyms don't have coordinated cadre of people, other instructors, that will do that for them either. The more I'm in this sport, the more I realize most instructors don't message their students tips. Most instructors don't message their students links to videos that they think are going to be good for them. From what I'm understanding and seeing and experiencing, I'm one of the few people who actually does that. Most instructors, they come in, they do the business, they teach, they're gone, and they don't think about it after they leave. I'm at a place where I have a smaller program. I'm not worried about the gym as a whole. So I'm able to do that with the students that I have. And that's why it's important for gym owners to have cadre. And that's a group of instructors that will take care of smaller groups within the gym so that the groups themselves don't feel lost. It's like being, if you've ever been in the military, you have section NCOs, and then you got the platoon sergeant, and so on down the line. And so these smaller groups have a leadership structure within them so that if there's questions, if there's guidance that needs to be displayed or dispensed, it's there. If we have top down in a military situation and we don't have those smaller leads, if you will, that top guy or girl or woman can't give orders correctly. It's the same with the gym. The gym needs a cadre of people, whether that's a morning guy, afternoon woman, an evening person, whatever it might be. But it has to be in place so that we can get some of this stuff sorted out. Many hobbyists train outside of regular schedules. There's plenty of us who we might come in 1 or 2 days a week, but we're also training at someone's garage, or we work law enforcement or some other job that happens to have mats, and we're training there as well. So it ultimately requires us to put some insight into how we're training ourselves and the decisions that we're going to end up making, because we're not always around that instructor like we should. Some signs you need to start self-coaching. You're repeatedly making the same mistakes and you're not sure why. You feel like you're training hard but not improving strategically. You leave open mat unsure of what to focus on next week. Your coach isn't giving you personalized feedback. Again, coaches can't reach out to everyone. Me personally, I try to message people regularly. Or if I also try to roll with people regularly. And if I can give you some feedback in the moment or immediately afterwards, something that I saw a glaring hole or something you're doing really, really good, I try to make a comment about it. I try to make messages. I'll send out a WhatsApp. I'll send out a DM. I'll send out a text periodically. It's not every week. Like, I have a full-time job. I got a spouse. So I have burdens of my own, but I try to make it so that the students hear from me regularly. And these are all reasons why it's super important to have at least a little bit of responsibility as a student to, like, okay, what am I going to do differently here? The gym that I'm at, I love the instruction. I love that I got a plethora of training partners of all skill levels to roll with. I love that there's a weightlifting area here and there's showers and all this other plus stuff. But I'm not getting the individual attention that I need. What do I need to bridge that gap? Because there is a problem when you go to a bigger gym that maybe you don't get that. So how do we bridge that gap? Some of the things that I was doing was creating weekly goals for myself. And oftentimes it was as simple as, this week, all I'm focusing on is escapes. All I'm focusing on is guard retention. I'm going to put myself in bad positions and I'm just going to focus on getting out of these things. I'm not focused on a submission. Submissions are cherry on the cake. It's a plus, but it's down the road. It's not the focal point. It's not what we should really be focused on. It's all the little stuff that leads us there that sometimes we neglect. I did micro goals. And sometimes that was, let's say it was a guy I rolled with who was really, really good. But I knew that if I can prevent him from passing the guard, my odds were higher in my favor. And I understood that from analyzing what he did really good and what I did well. So my goal every time I roll with him wasn't to submit, wasn't to sweep, wasn't to anything else. I need to retain the guard. I need to prevent him from passing. And from that, I could start building things. And that was when I had the most success against a specific person. Then there's other people where it's like, I know that I have to grip fight. There's a guy at Five Peaks, Mark. When he gets a hold of my wrist or my hand, I'm not breaking that grip. It's not there. It's not. He lets go of it when he pleases. I'm not breaking the grip at all. So I know that when I roll with him, my micro goal is to grip fight far more than I ever do anyone else. Derek at 5 a.m. group. one hell of a grip. Again, I have to grip fight a certain way with those people because once they latch on, there is no getting them to let go unless they find something better to do. Those are the micro goals that you start setting for yourself so that you, one, keep yourself engaged because not having a coach fucking sucks. You might have an instructor. You don't have a coach. You don't have a mentor. And not having those things sucks. So you create these little things to keep your mind occupied. I would also take notes. Over the years, I've had a couple of journals. Sometimes they're normal, like your traditional composite book. And I just write random shit in it. How I was feeling, what submissions worked, what didn't work, what I was working on, how I attributed my success or failure based on what I was working on. I also made goals long term. For the month, I'm working on knee cut. For 6 months, I'm working on armbar from mount, which I've repeated several times on this. So those really fine focused and the generalized focus were huge for me. I implore students to do this regardless of whether you have someone or not, because it takes ownership over. It takes ownership from that person so that you can have the confidence to say, I'm building my game based on my attributes, the things I'm most interested in. And then I'm going to them when I find roadblocks that I can't figure out. That's really the way the structure should be. It should never be so top heavy that I tell you everything. It doesn't build confidence in you, and it's a one-way street. It should really be you taking a little bit of ownership, saying, I like these techniques. Let me go see what my instructor thinks. And they might kind of steer you away from a specific technique. They might give you some feedback that at times you don't want to hear. There's times when we might gravitate to a technique that's not right for us at that moment, but might be right for us in a year or two. Sometimes that happens. How do I put this? I was recording my rounds since late white belt, maybe early blue belt. I have literally over a decade, I think it's 12 or 13 years, of footage on YouTube. It is the weirdest thing to say to someone because people don't realize how much I had to set up that camera for that duration randomly. There's some times when I had a lot of footage, sometimes when I had footage maybe once or twice a month. But I have over a decade's worth of footage of me rolling at every belt level that I've had. And when I look at myself, I can see versions of my current game, the foundations. I can see mistakes that I was making, and then I can skip ahead a couple of months, maybe a year, and I can literally see that I'm no longer making the mistake. I can go back to times when I'm like, oh, this is where I was learning butterfly. This is where I was learning the Kimura. And I can see all the gaping holes and the mistakes and the weird pauses and the herky-jerky motions of how I was trying to implement that technique. And it's kind of fun. But most importantly, you get to see the mistakes and the improvement over whatever that duration is. I think that sometimes students get so bogged down with the fact that they're comparing themselves to other people that we look at my skill level with another black belt who might be at the same or similar age, weight, and time in jiu-jitsu. And if I focus too much on them, I don't have the ability to understand my own progress. And then I start thinking, oh, I'm not getting any better because they're still giving me a hard time. But in reality, we're both getting better. And you can actually look at your footage for the last 6 months, periodically just kind of swim through it. And you can actually see improvements in things. You could see where you're giving people problems where you weren't before. You can see how you're responding to sweeps. Instead of accepting them, now you're trying to get back up to your feet or your knee, or you're using your elbow to stop the process. All that stuff is easily viewable when you're recording your rounds. And I understand you can't record every round. Some gyms don't want you to record, but record a few of them. Record from like open mats. Record from private lessons if you take them. Record maybe matchups that you do before or after class. Those are so beneficial. And if you could look at yourself and treat yourself like a coach would, you take the emotion aside. Like you had a bad day, you're all pissed off and you're angry, whatever. Take the emotion aside. What was it that I was trying to do and what was it that my opponent did? And if you have the footage, you can actually review it. If you don't have the footage, start being more aware. There's times when I'll ask a question. A student will ask a question and they'll be like, such and such keeps getting me in this bow and arrow. And I'll ask, well, what did they do before you got into bow and arrow? I don't know. And as part of the discussion or the coaching aspect is you have to know how you got there in order to really backtrack. So if you're going through this from a coaching perspective, you'll actually pay attention a little bit more to what my opponent's doing before I get to the bad position. And the reason you do that is because you don't have a coach. You don't have someone watching you. So your objective or your job, because you want to get better, is, okay, every round I'm going to be deliberately paying attention to what they're doing when I do things. I grabbed his collar. He didn't break the grip. That's a plus for me. Now I can ankle pick. Now I can collar drag. Now I can collar choke. There's a bunch of, I can loop choke. There's a bunch of things I can do. I grabbed his collar. He grabbed my hand with both of his hands. Okay, what do I do now? I can still collar drag. I can still do a lot of things. Maybe I can't collar choke because both of the hands are in the way, but I can do some of the other things. Okay, now I grabbed his hand, his collar. He broke my grip and immediately passed. I'll ask the instructor, well, he just passed. It's like, but how did he pass? He broke your grip, and then what did he do? Because that's going to help me answer the question for you specifically. If you can slow things down for yourself and be like, he broke my grip. He kept the grip in one hand, and in the other, he grabbed my collar, stood up, and then started knee cutting. Okay, we can work with that. You giving me more details to work with. If you don't have someone to ask, now you're dealing with, you have data points for you to review and decide, okay, when he broke the grip, I should have regripped my other hand. That would have kept him busy. Or when I understood that he was going to grab my hand, I should have collar dragged immediately, keep his hands busy. So these are things that you can start to kind of materialize if you're paying attention to what exactly is going on during the round. Let's see. I would ask, I kind of reviewed this, ask better questions. Sometimes I get questions and I love questions. I don't judge any of the questions. But you can tell how white belts ask questions versus how purple belts sometimes ask questions. The purple belt has more nuance and more a better understanding of what's happening to him than the purple belt does. I mean, the white belt does. So the questions get better with time and in understanding. If you can get to the stage where you're aware enough to ask better questions, the answers are going to get a little bit better. It doesn't mean that the instructor is going to nail it right on the head every time, but I can at least understand what ingredients you're dealing with in order to give you the better outcome. Top of that, if you can ask your questions for yourself after class, like if you're journaling, did I win the roll does not matter. Because win is such a vague term. It doesn't mean anything to us. If I rolled with someone and I submitted them 3 times with the exact same thing, didn't take me a whole lot of work, didn't create a whole lot of issues for myself, I didn't have to think outside the box, I didn't have to do anything, I won the round. Is it beneficial for me? Probably not. Now, I was working on this butterfly sweep. Did I initiate the butterfly sweep correctly? Yes? Okay. What happened when I initiated it correctly? And then you start jotting that down. If it did not work out well, what did my opponent do in response? Oh, they posted their hands. Okay. What can I do to prevent the post of the hands? Or what can I do in response to the post that'll get me a better position? These are great questions to start asking yourself. Did I win the round? Is a silly question. So it doesn't benefit you. Did I pull off my target sweep? Did I escape from bottom effectively? If not, where did I end up and what did my opponent do? These are questions that we can really work with and things that can really benefit your own growth and pull you into a certain level. I would say mindset is a huge part of coaching yourself. You don't want to be your biggest critic, and you don't want to be in your feelings, and you don't want to be in your emotions and self-doubt and demolishing yourself. You want to coach yourself like you would coach someone else. I never raise my voice. I never call anyone dumb. I never call anyone outside of their name. I don't humiliate people. I don't make people feel bad. So I have to take those same rule sets and apply them to me when I'm coaching me. I don't want to do that to me. I have been blessed with the mindset that I don't take jiu-jitsu personally. And when I failed at jiu-jitsu, it was never an emotional thing for me. I don't know if it's a personality trait. I don't know if it's something from my upbringing. I have no idea. What I do know is that for me, it's always been calculated. What did I do? When this happened? How did I respond? How did they respond? What do I need to do better? And it's always been clustered around that kind of coaching philosophy that I don't put myself down. And if it's a trait that you're seeing, work out of it. The minute you hear it, stop it. There's nothing that happens on the mat where you should go home driving saying, I'm a piece of shit. I fucking suck. You're in a hobby that you love doing, that brings you joy, that you love being around certain people. That is the energy you should take. Hey, I had a great time at jiu-jitsu today. I got smashed by everyone in the room. Fuck, I feel good. All right, so what do I need to fix? That's the way it should feel. And you get home. I love when I get home and my body feels smashed. Yes and no. I'm 44 now, so it's a little bit of an issue. But I like when I got home and I'm like, I got worked today. I got some stuff I got to work on. That's always a plus. Give yourself credit for effort. Give yourself credit for showing up. Give yourself credit for maintaining game plans, whether that is, hey, I want to come in 3 days a week. Life got hectic. I didn't come in the 3 days that I wanted, but I came in 3 days regardless. Or maybe I came in twice, but I stayed late. The spouse was okay with it. I reached out to a training partner, asked them questions. Like there's ways to massage your goals so they still fit, and award yourself kudos for doing the things that you're supposed to be doing. Self-coaching, in the least, this does not mean isolation. It just means you don't have that guiding mentorship. So you should find other teammates that are maybe going through the same thing, have discussions, have talks. If you can't find these types of mentorship relationship, find them online. Like there's plenty of people that I talk to now because of threads or Twitter or whatever, where I asked them questions. I remember Mike Mahaffey, for example. I noticed that he was doing seminars, and I want to get into doing regular seminars and workshops. I reached out to him and I said, "Hey, do you mind if I ask you some questions?" And he was like, "Yeah, here's my phone number. Just call me." So we talked. I don't remember. I think it was like 10 minutes or so. But it was the greatest conversation. Like, he wasn't a mentor for me, but I was able to reach out and get some feedback from him, some understanding. The greatest thing that he told me was that, no, I'm in the same boat as you are. Like, it may appear like I got it figured out. I'm figuring out just like you are. And that alone helped me kind of relax and be appreciative of where I was and where I'm heading, because I don't feel like I'm alone in that boat. And those relationships are so important. So if you can't find people within your circle, and I'm hoping you can, find people outside of it. Sometimes go to an open mat outside, go to the workshops outside, hit up a seminar, befriend people outside of the community, within the community, but outside of your own gym. It's a huge asset. Like, I don't have an instructor that I meet with regularly. I have someone that is on my card for promotions, but they live in another city. But I'm slowly getting people like Mark and Carlos at Five Peaks. I go over there twice, 3 times a month, and I get to roll with these black belts, and they'll share with me some ideas or some tips on something. And it's not a instructor-student relationship. It's more peer-to-peer. But they know things that I don't know. And I love when I can pick their brain about something, or they say, hey, I'm working on this. What's your take on it? Or I notice they're doing something in a role and I get to pick their brain about that. So self-coaching does not mean you're isolated. Does not mean, but you're by yourself. Find those relationships. If you can't find them in that sense, in the sense that I'm talking about, reach out to coaches online. Like BJJ Mental Models has premium. They'll review videos. They have the Discord if you have questions, which is a massive community. You can always reach out to me if you have questions. We can set up remote coaching. I just did a private lesson with a guy from another school, and it was a blast. Like, you have options. You have things that you can get into. You have people that you can reach out to if you feel like you're not getting that mentorship quality from your gym. I feel like you should, but I understand gyms are all come in different sizes, and sometimes we stay at them for other things when we don't get some few things, and we can get those things outside. It's okay. Closing. If you're waiting for someone to map your path, it's probably not going to happen. It's really time for you to take ownership over it. I think the students that leave that to their instructors often have slowed progression or will quit. The students that start making their own way and use their instructors as almost highlighting what they need are going to have better games, are going to understand jiu-jitsu better, and are going to be probably better instructors at the end of the day. Again, if you want to work out, if you want to work with me, if you have any questions, I know this is a weird topic, and I think more students are going through it than not, and it's just not something that's discussed often. Reach out to me, dfm.2099, Instagram or Threads. If you want to work with me, dfmcoaching.com. Don't feel like you're alone. Reach out to people, talk to people, get some mentorship going on. Any questions, please let me know. Thank you.